Howdy y'all. This is how I covered my metal working area walls of my shop with metal. The cheapest way I know how. I want to say thank you to the 12 people so far that have subscribed. You're awesome. I know some guys are dedicated to woodworking, or bodywork, or wrenching on cars, or building super projects. There are also guys like me that try and do different things. You know, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I like car stuff, metalwork stuff, woodworking stuff, and all kinds of other stuff. Let's not forget all of the stuff associated with the house and my work stuff. This is the area of my shop I decided to designate for my metalworking. I want to make it safer than having bare wood collecting sparks from grinding and welding and other potentially flammable endeavors. I am not saying this is going to be a fireproof area, just a bit safer. Here's my rough outline of my procedure. I have to move a bunch of stuff out of the way, install OSB boards on the wall, install the metal over that, make a shelf out of non-flammable materials, do it as cheaply as possible using as much stuff as I already have, like recycling, sort of. It seems every project starts with moving something away from where you just moved it to. I'm going to install OSB to the studs, then install the metal to the OSB. This will make the metal less flimsy wavy-like, and I can add more screws to better secure the metal, and for mounting things that aren't too heavy anywhere on the wall. I used my pneumatic nailer with ring shank galvanized nails, but many other nail and screw options should be fine too. I cut out openings for the electrical outlets. This is probably the wrong way to do it, but it is how I did it. So I used my measurements and marked for the boxes, then carefully used my magical oscillating saw to carefully cut the openings. The cheapest metal for me is using the skin from old rolling sheet doors. You know, the ones they use on mini storage or commercial buildings. Now, cutting the metal. Some gear to help keep you more whole. Thick gloves that will resist the sharp metal edges. Goggles to protect the eyeballs. Hearing protection, and at least some long sleeves. These processes should work on about any sheet cutting project. If the line you're cutting is pretty smooth and straight, I try to use shears if possible. It'll cut smoother and leave a smoother edge. If cutting across ribs, I use a metal cutting blade on a circular saw. Prop the material off the ground so the blade doesn't make contact with the ground. And this will be oh so loud, and it may make sparks. If you're doing this without help, the smaller you make the pieces, the easier it will be to handle. There will be more splices and waste. The metal door has a terrible paint job. I installed some flashing in the corner and also at the floor to protect the wood framing better. You can think of it like waterproofing except from a shower of sparks. The screws I used are for metal roofing, the kind for attaching metal to wood. The metal ribs can either run vertically or horizontally. I went vertical to decrease dust and debris collecting. Also, the panel will support itself a little easier if ran vertically. My original plan was to go about 8 feet from the corner and only under the 2x10. After I saw the way it looks and considered the extra safety potential, I decided to go wider and above the 2x10. Had to buy a couple more sheets of OSB and patchworked small odd pieces together like Granny's quilt. The metal will cover most of the patches, so that part didn't matter to me. With the wall installed below the 2x10, I wanted to install a shelf in the metal area. It needed to be strong and made of metal, or something non-flammable. I happened to salvage this piece, which is basically a big shelf made from angle iron and expanded steel. I like the expanded steel because it can hold big heavy items but let smaller particles fall through. It is too big as it is, so I split it down the middle and will weld it back at 90 degrees and add some bracing. Before installing the shelf, I had to cut notches into the ribs and hammer that flat so the shelf could be mounted more directly to the walls. Now, going above the 2x10, my helper was not available, so I cut in smaller pieces that were just slightly too much for me to handle. One little touch I wanted to add was to have an outlet up high enough that was on the circuit with the lights. This would have two purposes. First, the fan would turn on and off with the lights. Sometimes the fan is left on all the time after the shop is closed up, or it may not be easy to reach to turn on or off if there is something on that wall. Dose, if I add decorative lights or signs, they can be controlled by the same switch. I traced the box for the hole, cut the metal first, this time using an angle grinder. Then I used the magical oscillating tool to cut the hole in the OSB, brought the wires through, make sure the power is off to this line, use an old work box for the outlet. It is not a box that is old, it is a box for installing in a pre-existing wall rather than new construction. Install the box, the outlet, and the cover. Turn the power on. Listen for popping electrical sparking sounds or a breaker being tripped. If that doesn't happen, you may be safe to test the outlet. This metal working corner is not finished, but the video just about is. Stay tuned to see what I come up with for organization and maybe a sign. Thanks for watching.